Hello Patreon friends, Darren Cornell here again. Welcome to part 15 of The Man With No Name, this Patreon exclusive painting tutorial for you guys. We are making progress on the head. We did a load of shading and stuff. We're working on this. In the last video I think we did more shading. We added a base colour of the hair. Let's get on and do some more stuff. We can do a bit more on the hair. We can add the colour of the eyeballs. Maybe paint in the cigar. Let's just make some progress. So quick check to see if everything's on. The music is playing. The video is counting up. I'm breathing. Let's go on with it. Okay, I will bring you guys into about here. I think that's about right. Let's have a look. Whoa, what's going on there? Alright, hang on. Let me see what's going on here. I think I've clicked a setting on my other camera and had the wrong switch on, and it's clicked it on. It's done change the settings for this camera, which is, this camera has a completely different set of settings for different brightnesses and stuff. So hang on, close-up camera. That is a bit better. So focus is about there. Okay, awesome. Oh, let's put me in the bottom corner. Hang on, where are we? Okay, so, hang on, wrong camera. I was pointing it at that camera. I should be pointing it at that camera. Okay, so let me move that setting window over there. So I've still got access to it, but it's out of my way. Get out my way. Okay. Just having a quick look at the reference pictures. I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 9 reference pictures all across both my screens here. So I've got a load of stuff to be working with. Oh, itchy flipping nose. It's this moustache. As it gets longer, sometimes hairs tickle my nose. It's very distracting. Okay. So, you know what, I'm not even going to think too much about what I want to do in what particular order. I'm just going to do something. As soon as I see a thing that can be done, I'm just going to get on and do some work with it. So, clean the brush that was in the water. Right. Okay, I'm going to make a thin, let's see, what colour do I do it in? No, change of plan. Let's get some chocolate brown. Now, I'm just doing a quick dry brush over the hair because, no, bigger brush. Just to get some colour on it. I've done one coat, or might have been 2 coats, I can't remember, of umber. That's just the flat base colour that's going to be the basis of all the shadows and stuff at the bottom. And we've got more detail to do around all these edges, which will then blend into the stubble, which will go into the beard. And there's going to be more shading and stuff going on around here. I know some people just paint the dark colour up to the edge and are done with it. I'm not. I never do things that simple. So there's a lot to do, but for now I'm just gonna chuck some chocolate brown down, and I know there's more to go on top of it, but this will just let me get a quick impression of more colour on top of the umber, even though there's more shadows to come afterwards, and you know, lots to do. I just want to do this, which will help. It's one of those bits that I want to chuck on now because it'll help sort of, you know, with the visualizing of what is this guy going to look like. Where's the camera? And a lot of this chocolate highlight colour that I'm putting on will be gone over because there'll be more shadows put on top, and also there'll be, his hair isn't so sort of rich brown, it's just more of a dark brown, but it's got to have life to it. So doing this underneath will give it that life and depth, but still allowing me to do more stuff on top. You know what? While I've got that colour, because that's pretty much all that I was going to do with that colour, that was just plain leather brown there. I am going to get a ton of water and thin it right down. Now this is a case of, and this happens sometimes you're working on a particular thing and you're just doing that thing. Sometimes you'll be in the middle of something and you'll see a thing and you go, oh, let me just quickly do that, and then we go back to the main thing. This is one of those cases. So the hat, which was done in a particular colour, it was a colour that I mixed, which was I think a mixture of umber and chocolate brown, or umber and leather brown, I can't remember, but it was a colour I mixed to make the basis of the hat. But it's a flat colour with not much else going on. What I want to do is wet it, just plain water. I want to start building up layers of just some depth and some stuff going on, so it's not so plain. And there's lots of ways to do that, and I would probably do it different each time. You could dry brush, you could just paint different things, you could, all kinds of things you can do. What I want to do at the moment, and I just suddenly thought it while I had that paint sitting there, so everything's covered in water now. I'm now going to take some of that thinned down chocolate brown, and quite rough, this isn't super precise or anything here, and I'm just making sure I don't get it on my Groovy Jaws 19 t-shirt. I'm flicking this all over. Now normally when I do flicking, I am trying to be really precise and also trying to control the size of the flicks, because we don't want anything big. We want it all to be tiny, tiny, tiny dots. That's actually not the case this time. I want them to be quite big and quite random splotches all over it. But because of the reason why I painted it with water first, why I covered it with water, was because any of those splotches that go down will then sort of dissipate out, and they will give it a nice mixed colour. They will make it look like there's more going on in the colour, and it's more random and has more layers and more depth. But not in any way that I had to deliberately think about or come up with. It's always a case of trying to avoid the appearance that you've done something, you know, on purpose or deliberately. It's got to look random. And the way that things like fabric and suede and leather age is quite random. So I just want to chuck all this colour on, and it might be bits where something's been rubbed against the hat. It might just be bits where it's starting to wear out. It might just be bits where he's dropped it on the floor and picked it back up. But anything that's affected the fabric of the hat can be shown here. I'm just dabbing up a couple of extra, because some of the water was pooling into little puddles, and we don't want that. So I'm just picking up, sorry, off camera again, just the bit where the water had been put on quite thick and it was starting to pool in the corners. Just getting rid of that. But all the rest of it, let's see if I can show you. There you go. See that bit? There's a bunch of splotches, and there's some there. And there's a bunch all around the rim. Some bits on the side there. I'm just going to leave them. Might dab those ones a little bit more, just to spread them out and make them a bit more random. But by covering it in water, all those bits will go on, and they'll just sort of dissipate out a little bit, and it'll just create some uneven colouring to the thing, and it'll just look like the fabric, or the leather or the suede, or I don't know what these hats are made of, is quite random looking, which is exactly what we want. So I just saw that when I realised that I had the colour on my palette, and I was like, oh, I can do something with that. So I wanted to do that quickly while we were there. Okay, let's carry on. Let us chuck down some eye colour. Just cleaning all this brown off the brush first. Okay, let me get some clean tissue, kitchen roll. Okay, eyes. Eeny, meeny, miny. Where are we? Okay, now his eyes are mostly in shadow, so they're going to be quite dark, and that's going to be painted on because if I did the eyes, I'm pointing at the wrong camera again. If I did the eyeballs there, the colour of normal eyeballs, or the colour of Clint Eastwood's eyeballs, at that scale with the shadows, the shadowing, or the shadows, I can't even talk. They would look quite bright, so I will enhance the appearance of the shading and the shadows on the eyeball, like I do with everything. It's all about making this look like the full scale thing. And also, when he's in the film, he's in the desert, he's out in the sun, so there's a lot of harsh shadow, and you might not have that same shadow wherever you are. So we can just sort of add a little bit of it and just hint a bit more. That's what we do. So the eyes are going to be darker, but I'm not going to do that straight away. I'm going to get some cream and some dark grey, but not much. I'm just going to mix it, and I will put it on with... I'm actually going to need quite a small brush to do that. Put it on with a teeny tiny brush. But for now, let's get some... Where are we? Let's get all of these out the way. Cream. and dark grey. In fact, let me make sure that those are moved away from the head, because I do not want to accidentally get some paint anywhere. So let's see, that's dry, put some cream there. I don't need much because it's a tiny area. I'm going to be thinning this down as well. So let's get some grey. You know what, to start with, that's going to be fine. It's quite greyed down. That might just be bleaching out on the camera, but it's not white. Can't really see it. Anyway, it's a very light grey, light greyish cream. That's the best way to describe it. So I'm going to put a little bit of flow stuff in there, flow enhancer. Oh, my brain will switch on today, I insist. Okay, so where's my focus? Let's just move the focus up a little bit, but not too much. There you go, that's about right. So I can hold it in front of myself and see what I'm doing, but also you can see what I'm doing too. So I'm just going to paint that in there. Get a little bit more, do the other one. Okay, that'll do to start with. I'm just going to do what I usually do, take the same brush, cleaned off of paint, so it's just got some water on, and any bits where the paint may have spilt over an edge, just going to get rid of it. See bits like, let me zoom the focus right up. See in here, ignore the brown on my finger, you can see where the cream paint is sort of pooling a little bit in that corner as opposed to this one. So all I do is dip some water on the brush, wipe most of it off. Now empty brushes soak up paint anyway, so that's what this will do. So it'll soak up the excess, which I can then wipe off, get some water back on the brush, and then just go back in. Where's the focus? And with some water, just clean up the edges. Now it doesn't have to be too clean, this part, because we're going to be going under here with shadows and extra colours and stuff anyway, but we're just making it a bit better. So take the focus back down to wherever it was. Ooh, too much water. I must have had extra water on my brush which fell off on the last minute and has got a load of water in there. Hang on, give me 1 second. Okay. Sometimes your actual brush, the bristles, I'm getting all my words wrong today. The bristles on your brush can be as wet or dry as you need, but if you just dipped it into a thing of water, sometimes there'll be like a couple of drops of water on this bit of the brush that you don't notice, and you're working away and then they go bloop and slide off, and all of a sudden you've got way too much water on your kit or your head or your statue or whatever where you didn't want it, and that's kind of frustrating. Okie dokie, so let me get some don't want grey, what I do want is umber. I'm going to leave the grey out for now because I might want it, but I don't know. And just clean this brush off because this is my super pointy, or one of my super pointy brushes, and I want to keep it that way. Wash it off, put it back in the thing. Okay, normal brush. Let me get some bit of umber. Where's the focus? And I just want to thin this right down. I just want a very thin, washy, almost umber coloured water, and I just want to go in here. I want to use that to chuck in some shadow just in that shadowy bit. Quite a lot of water on there, but that's okay because I'll just pool in the crevices and create some natural shadow. Then what I can do is wipe off some of it and go take it around a little bit and just apply some in the bottom corner and just take it across the eye a little bit. So some umber around there into that bottom corner and start to take it across the eyeball and then just blend it away once it gets across the middle. I just want to add, I'm basically just looking at reference pictures and I'm looking at bits of pictures and thinking, okay, that's, you know, his skin is a certain colour on this bit, also that bit is in shadow, or he's squinting which makes the skin look darker, or I'm just trying to both match how the actual Clint Eastwood would look on set, like his, you know, actual skin colour, but also just how it would look if you were looking at him, taking into account his surroundings and his light sources. Where's the sun coming from? Is he squinting? Is he not? What's in shadow? Stuff like that. And those things are just as important as just painting skin right. Almost a bit more, because those things can help make it look like a character as opposed to just a person. Bit of water, just softening up that bit that I just put on. Dab, 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 dab. Cool. Let's chuck some of that. Not too much, but a little bit of it under there. Same on the other side. Okay. Well, we've got some of that liquidy umber. Now we're going to do more on the lips anyway, but I just want to drop in a dark line of umber, liquidy umber in the crevice on the lips, just to create that shadow. So when I'm painting it later, those bits are already dark as they need to be. Just to give that impression of the fact that the mouth goes in and it's not just a flat thing with some bumps. So there's going to be more colour going on to that. I'm just going back on with a dry brush just to pull off some of that paint because it was a bit too thick, which is done now. Okay, let us... Alright, I'm going to get some... Get some tanned flesh. And chocolate or leather, chocolate or leather. Get some chocolate brown. That one will do. Okay, so chocolate brown. Let's chuck a load in there. Now let's get some tanned flesh and mix that in. And then let's thin that right down. What I'm doing with this is let's see. I just want to start the blending effect of this hairline. Now there's going to be more done on here, and there's going to be individual hairs painted on and everything, but I just want to take that hard edge that I painted, which doesn't go as far as the sculpt goes because I was, you know, being careful and allowing myself the space to do the blending. I'm just going to go in for now. In fact, let me get some oh my god, itchy nose. Let me chuck some umber in there. I want to darken it a little bit and also thicken the paint up. Let's see what this is like. Because this is just I want to slightly lighten the front edge of the paint and slightly darken the bit on the skin that's beyond it. And then when we go back with teeny tiny brushes and do some individual brush strokes and everything, there will be a basis for that to start from. Now his hair, the way it's been sculpted, let's see, this bit, there's nothing sculpted here, but there actually needs to be, because the hairline comes up from here, goes out here and then back, but it's very thin and faded. So I'm just going to do this colour on here for now. Roughly get the shape right, and that's just roughly, but it's going to be blended in, and there's going to be dark bits put on, there's going to be light bits put on, but just to get it roughly right. Okay, that'll do for a first layer, because we'll then take the dark colour and take it out into that colour, and this will sort of take on the appearance of shadow underneath the hair. So do that there, and then do the same on the other side. So just randomly dab that around, follow the hairline as it's sculpted, but then just take it a little bit beyond it, and then it'll also allow me to change the highlights and the shadows. Let's see. Now this is going to be right under the hat anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much, but once that's been toned down with the colour of the skin and it's got to look like thin hair. It's not the full thickness of his hair from here. That is how it was sculpted. But these extra bits that I've painted on are just, if you look at your own hairline or anyone's hairline, there are bits where thin hair, like wispy, it might be like a quarter of the amount of normal hair, little thin wispy hairs, so just come forward onto the skin and fade out. And that's what these bits are. So they're going to be blended in with skin colour to thin it down, and then this dark colour coming out, and this bit will just be sort of shadow under the hair and just those thin bits where the hair fades onto the skin. I'm just going to do, well, seeing as this side has just dried a little bit more already, I'm just going to take some of that same colour, dab it on again, which doubles the thickness, which makes it a bit darker. Do the same on the other side, because that's probably dry a little bit now. Okay, that'll do for now. In fact, while I've got that colour, let me thin it down a bit. I'm just going to put a wash of that colour on the eyebrows. I'm just going to follow where they're sculpted. Because they're pretty accurate, so I don't need to do. Sometimes one thing I have to do quite a lot when I'm repainting is change the shape of things like eyebrows and stuff, because they may be sculpted in the wrong place or not correct for the expression that the face has, or not correct for the actor that it's supposed to be. Lots of reasons, but sometimes eyebrows are just wrong. So I spend a lot of time not only fixing colours and stuff, but also simply moving where they are. There's a bit of dark paint on the eyelid there that it needs to go. But in this case they seem to be pretty spot on, so what I can do for now is just get a simple medium dark wash. It's not super dark brown or anything, and it is only thin. It is a wash, it's not thick paint or anything, but it's a start to show where the colours are. Now I've noticed that both eyebrows are a bit different. Another layer. Well, that's dried a little bit. Just darken it a bit underneath and in the middle here. Now, any of you who have been following me for a while or seen any of my previous videos will know that there are, as with everything, I paint many more layers to come on the eyebrows. That's not just brown and we're done. That's how you'll find it on quite a lot of action figures, even today. Even though we're sort of 10-15 years down the line from when action figures started becoming not popular, because action figures have always been popular, but becoming more collectible and high-end, and things started getting better. And you had Sideshow, who did 12-inch figures, and the Anakin Skywalker figure that I've got, which was the very first figure that I resculpted and repainted 11 years ago. That's the one that got me noticed. Those figures, by today's standards, you look at Hot Toys and stuff, they were kind of rubbish in terms of paint applications, and sometimes the heads were too big and all kinds of stuff. But at the time, they were kind of good, and they cost like 40 quid or something back then, which was fine. It's not like today where things are 150 quid. But you look at even today, but even with the likes of Hot Toys, when they do eyebrows, they'll be sculpted, but they'll just be airbrushed on with a single colour, like a vague, dark blur of colour on the eyebrows. And a lot of the time that works with the sculpted thing. It's enough to show, oh, there's eyebrows there, and you can get away with it most of the time. But I do a similar thing, but with lots of layers of hand painted paint, and then paint in individual hairs and highlights and stuff like that. So that'll do for now. We're just starting to put some colour on, starting to build up the colour around there. Let's see. I'm going to get some grey. Let's chuck these other lids on. Let's see, get some grey. I don't need to show you what I'm doing here because I'm not doing much. I'm just going to chuck it on there and I thin it right down. I just want to start putting on a bit of shading on the eyeballs. Let me see if I can move the focus up a bit. Hopefully this is thin enough, because the eyeballs are a bit dry now. So I've just got some grey, and I'm going to do my usual thing, which is paint a thin layer of grey across the top half, top third of the eyeball. And you can sort of see it there. It's not a massive thing, but it's there. And a lot of it gets covered up when the iris goes on. But enough of it shows to enhance the shadows that you actually get from the eyelids and stuff. And what I'm doing as well is taking that same thin watery down grey and just adding more in the corners to enhance the roundness of the eyeballs. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the screen at all there. I don't even know if you could see any of that. It's so subtle it might not have shown up anyway. Basically put some thin grey wash in the corners. I'm just going in with a wet brush and just blending it in a little bit. Just blending in the shadowy bit that I did. Same thing on this side, just blending in those corners that I did and the bit that I did right across the top, and also in this corner a little bit, just thinning it out, because these eyes are going to be quite dark grey and I'm going to build that up in layers over time, depending on, because I don't want to throw it all on and then go, oh, that was too much. I would rather slowly build it up. So this is quite liquidy and I'm just chucking in a load of grey in that top bit there. Now a lot of that's going to be covered with the iris, but the rest of it isn't. And also this helps to add shadow under the eyelid. So let me clean that liquid off. Just gonna, oops, again, that thing I nearly did, there was water on the arm of the brush and it was about to slide off onto the sculpt, which would have wiped off the thing that I just painted. So I'm just blending in the thing that I just painted. Do for now on that. Just one layer at a time. It's how we build it up. Just looking at it down here now that I'm not holding it up for the camera. I'm going to get some of that grey and chuck it in that corner where I threw some umber before, because a lot of that umber got blended away, and we just want to chuck another dark colour in there. And it can be grey, doesn't matter that it's grey, it's dark, it's shadowy, it will work perfectly well in there. In fact, while I've got that grey on my palette, those eyebrows that I did, let me chuck some grey wash around the thicker part of the eyebrows. It'll thicken them up, it'll darken them, it will also add a slightly random element because it's a different colour. We're not just working with, well, he's got brown eyebrows, so let's make sure that they're painted in brown. One thing I was taught by my art teacher in school, and he was a arsehole, he was a dickhead. But one of the things that he taught, which at the time I said was stupid, and it still sort of is stupid, was he said, if you look at trees, if you look at the leaves on trees, you think you look out on a forest and everything's green. He said, trees are not made of green. Now that's clearly bullshit, because you look at leaves and they are green, but his point, even though it was heavy-handed and untrue, his point is right, is that there are more colours and more variations on things than you initially think, than you initially realise. So if you're painting trees, you can put blues and yellows and reds and all kinds in there, and it will add to, you know, different variations. And as long as you do it in a controlled way and you're careful and you don't just make multicoloured trees, it will add layers of depth and stuff, because it adds things that you're not expecting, but that can build up to the same thing. And that's what I do when I'm painting these things. I add a lot of colours. Like, skin is not just skin colour. There's purple and blue and all kinds of stuff going on in there. And that's what I do. So the fact that they are brown eyebrows, chuck some grey on there, that's fine. They're still looking like brown eyebrows, and we've still got more shadows to do and more highlights and then individual hairs. But that grey suited what we needed at the time, and it was there, and it darkened them up, and it did what we wanted. You know what? For now, let's... one final thing before we finish this video, because it's already 45 minutes. Let's get some... let's see. Let's get some chocolate brown. And I could do with a smaller brush, to be honest. Let's get another brush. Let's start painting the cigar. So I'm doing this with chocolate brown first. It's quite detailed, taking it right up to the skin. And there's going to be more shadowing painted on, sort of where it joins and everything. I'm doing this with fairly thick paint because the cigar is supposed to look like it's made out of rolled leaves and stuff, so we don't want a completely smooth plastic tube coming out of his mouth. So I'm doing it with quite thick paint, and that will give quite a thick and bumpy effect. Now I've got to go down inside his mouth there, so I'm going to get a little bit of water on the brush here and see if I can take the brush down in between his lips. Could probably do with a thinner brush, but this will do for now. Now again, going to be more shadowing, and the more shadowing that I do will blend any of the hard edges where things meet. But for now that'll do, and I'll actually leave the end grey like that. That's the colour of the primer. Where are we? That colour that was initially sprayed over the whole thing. Even though I'm going to paint over the end, and I'm going to paint the burnt ash on the end, I did the same thing when I painted the Biggie Smalls head that I did. I painted the cigar and I painted the end with different layers of grey and black and light grey. And I'm going to do that here, but just for now, for speed, I'm just going to leave that end with the grey primer. So that's the dark brown. Now that's just the first effect. There's going to be some more dark on top of it. There's going to be some leather brown. There's going to be bits of grey to tone it down. But I just wanted to get some colour on there. And that end of the cigar, where it's just the primer that was sprayed on the whole thing, I will leave that grey because it's sort of the right colour and it also gives the right effect, so it means we can sort of see what it's going to look like. So we've added some of the base shading to the extension bit up here. That's going to be toned back with skin colour and extended out with dark colour and blended in, and then some highlights and individual things. These bits going to be blended in more. That was just, I wanted to, because I'd stopped this dark colour back here somewhere and I just wanted to extend it out, but with a lighter colour. I didn't want to take the dark colour all the way up to the edge. I just wanted a lighter colour that was halfway between the dark and the skin, and then we can blend it. So we've done that, done the eyebrows, done the eyeballs, and added some round shading, some shadows in the top edges and some shadings in the two corners on each eye. There'll be more to come on that, as always. And then we'll do some shadows and stuff around here. More eyebrows. We'll add more to the eyes. There's going to be more shading and stuff around the eyes, and the eyeballs are going to be coloured in some more before we do the irises. I think the next one, the big thing that we'll do probably straight away, is go straight in and start the stubble, because that's going to be a thing that will really jump the look forward. Now, is this hat dry yet? Not really, but at least I didn't paint the underneath of it. So I just want to hold it roughly in place. Yeah, we need to get the stubble on there and start building that beard up, because that's going to have a big effect on what he looks like. And that beard's going to be quite an undertaking, because it's not just a big thick beard which you can just paint with flat colours, but it's also not thin stubble that you can just do thin washes of. It's got a bit of stubble and it's got beard in it, and I'm doing it on top of quite a coarsely sculpted beard, with big long lines that make the beard hairs look like they're about 4 inches long. So there's going to be some breaking up of those sculpted lines that sort of go from there all the way down under there, and on this side from here, all like unbroken lines. They should be much more broken up, but not knocking the sculpt. You look at it, you can see who it is, but I'll be using shadow and light, breaking up those lines, because if I just painted wash on those and let the wash sink into those lines, it would just look like he had a load of stripes on his face. So I'll break those up with different layers and different levels of paint. I say we get on with that on the next video, and that will really jump the likeness forward quite a lot. Right, there you go. Right, so that was part, what did I say it was? Oh, the sun's come out again. Hang on, camera 2, nope, camera 1, main cam, darker. There you go, that's better. That was part 16, did I say? It was part something. I think might have been 16. 15. 28. I don't know. Whatever it was. That was part whatever that was. So, as always, thanks for keeping me company. Ask me questions. and all the usual stuff. I will see you on the next video. You'll see me around on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube probably. That's it. I'm going to go because I'm going to go straight into another video. So I will see you next time. In a few days probably, I guess, if I'm still sticking to my Tuesdays and Fridays thing for my Patreon videos, because this is being recorded in advance. So I'll see you in a few days and speak to you in the meantime, and that's it. Look after yourselves, look after everyone else, and I'll see you soon. Take care.